This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Carolyn Stokes.
And I'm Anthony Germain.
We begin tonight with a rare look at the fields of ice jamming the Strait of Belle Isle.
The provincial government has been flying passengers as well as freight right across the strait while the ferry remains anchored, unable to cross even with the help of an icebreaker.
And today, Here and Now's Meg Roberts was on the icebreaker Henry Larson and has this report.
So I'm standing on the Larson in the middle of the Strait of Belle Isle. We took this helicopter here, landed on the ship so that we could see all of this ice. The ice is about 120 centimeters thick, but crews say it's the pressure of that ice that creates ridges that range up to 30 feet tall. The captain of the ship says the ship, which operates at about 16,000 horsepower, can barely get through the ice at times. He said this is the worst he's ever seen it. The Canadian Coast Guard is now moving freight to Labrador because the ferry can no longer pass through. Meg Roberts reporting from the Larson.
And Meg will have a full report from the Strait of Belle Isle when she's back on land tomorrow on Here and Now.
Yeah, and let's hope for a couple of days of sustained favorable winds to push that ice out. But for now, we're dealing with some below seasonal temperatures for most of the northern peninsula and parts of the, Labrador, sitting around -10 as your afternoon high today. You should be sitting around 0 degrees as your daytime highs. Otherwise, we're sitting a little bit below 0 for most of the island, and then those cooler temperatures up through Labrador as well. Lab City sitting at -18. Now, looking at the satellite and radar, we saw lots of cloud cover up through Labrador. Same eventually for parts of the island with some flurry activity moving through, and that's going to continue as we head through the day or the overnight tonight with that potential for flurries moving across the island. Things should clear out though by the time tomorrow morning rolls around. It looks like a lovely afternoon tomorrow. I'll have all those details coming up in your full forecast. Anthony?
Thanks, Ashley. An update now, an important update on Here and Now's top story from last night. Saji Yakubi infant son needs cancer treatment in Boston, but without her Canadian citizenship, Yakubi can't get permission to cross the border. The family is now in the process of renewing her Afghanistan passport. This to get Canadian authorities moving on the paperwork to get her to her baby's hospital bedside in Boston. Meanwhile, the Association for New Canadians says accessing health care can be difficult for people who recently arrived from another country, and those families need support.
Families who are in unique situations that sometimes the communities need to get together to support these families at the emotional level, to just support them through what they're going through, but also to help to navigate systems and to use all resources and supports that are out there to work together to find a creative solution that will be in everyone's best interests.
Well, in 10 minutes, we'll hear more from the ANC. Carol did an interview. You'll hear about the challenges that immigrants face in navigating our healthcare system.
Well, the principal of a K-7 school in Kelligrews has been charged with assaulting a student. CBC News first reported the allegations against Robin McGraw last week, and today we learned the teachers union is covering his legal costs. Here Now's Ryan Cook broke the story and has the latest.
Robin McGraw was due in provincial court this morning, but instead he had two veteran lawyers show up on his behalf, Tom Johnson and Ian Patey. Johnson is the province's former consumer advocate. He spent about 10 years in that role. Patey is known for representing victims of the Cougar 491 crash. But neither has a background here in criminal court. If these two are labor lawyers, then why are they representing a man facing serious criminal charges? And who's footing the bill? Well, today we learned the NLTA is picking up the tab by providing legal assistance. The NLTA does this on a case-by-case basis. For McGraw, they've retained two senior lawyers with O'Day Earl. Last week, NLTA boss Dean Ingram told us he was irked to see the principal suspended without pay before anything was proven in court. Those comments were after we obtained this email sent by the NLTA to its members. It makes several references to a lack of resources somehow playing a factor in this case. The NLTA wouldn't speak to specifics, but said teachers find themselves in compromising situations when they aren't staffed properly. There's no telling when the specifics will come, but McGraw's case will be called again on April 16th. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
It was lunchtime on the sidewalk for union reps for Revenue Canada workers. The Union of Taxation Employees and the federal government started contract talks back in 2016, but those talks broke off in January of this year. And now the union is trying to get the public's attention. The main sticking point is wages.
We work hard just the same as anybody else does. We deserve fair wages the same as anybody else does. Please support your federal civil servants. Your federal civil servants are here to work for you.
Registered nurses have a tentative agreement with the province, and it's for health authorities. No layoffs is the big promise in the new contract. The deal with the nurses union also creates 35 more floating positions. Maternity and parental leave are also expanded to 78 weeks. The deal still needs to be ratified by the union's 5,200 members.
Just the fact of it being greener and us being able to produce things here has a greater impact on the environment and just good stewardship.
Well, it's not your regular climate for these Scottish cows, but they are making themselves right at home here in Happy Valley Goose Bay. I'll tell you what they're doing here coming up on Here and Now.
The Corner Brook Minor Hockey Association is missing money, a lot of it. There are tens of thousands of dollars missing in rink fees. As hockey continues at the rink, Here and Now's Colleen Connors learns more about the missing funds.
The Corner Brook Minor Hockey Association says that they are very much behind on paying to use the rink here at the Corner Brook Civic Center. Financial issues were discovered by the executive just a few weeks ago. And the mayor of Corner Brook, who was responsible for this rink, says that, well, they haven't made a payment to use the rink and the ice here since, well, December.
I'm definitely concerned. I think that when minor hockey came to us and mentioned the irregularities they were facing, it's deeply troubling. The RNC has been brought in. We, of course, have an obligation as the operator of the Civic Center to try and recover revenue from our tenants.
The association spends around $25,000 a month to use the ice. Minor hockey is the biggest tenant. Parsons doesn't know exactly how much money is missing or where it's gone. The city is taking a very kind approach, giving the association up to 2 years to pay back money owed.
We'll work with them to recover that money, and again, we'll do it in a compassionate way, because our other role as City Hall is to look out for our residents, and we want to make sure minor hockey, I guess, survives. We want to see the parents and the kids continue on next season.
Although no one with the Corner Brook Minor Hockey Association is talking publicly, they did send out this very detailed release yesterday to the media, saying that they're going to hire a 3-person volunteer team to dig into those problems with the finances, and they're going to review all of that in the coming days. They're also going to send all those findings over to the police, who have started a case file. The goal is to get through the last few weeks of the hockey season and come up with a short-term budget, so members can still enjoy some upcoming tournaments and the end-of-year banquet. Results of the review will come out in about a week. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Stress making people sick, bullying in meetings, friction between Nalcor's team and its counterparts with engineering and construction giant SNC-Lavalin came out today at the Muskrat Falls inquiry. Normand Béchard, SNC-Lavalin's leader on the hydro project, was on the stand today, and he told the inquiry about a confrontation with project director Paul Harrington.
Then Paul stood up and started bullying us. You're incompetent.
Who did he say was incompetent?
Everyone that was in the room. So me having 40 years of experience, Ed over that has been the head of procurement that was 40 years of experience, and Nick Gillis that was at least 25 years of experience. So he was bullying us, telling you're incompetent, you will not be able to get the job done, I'm not satisfied, and he was yelling. Disrespect. Full disrespect. So After 5 minutes, I just try say, hey, Paul, hold on. Just calm down. Just tell us what is going wrong, and we are going to have a talk. But no way, he was keeping yelling. So then I looked to Nick and say, we're not going to stay here being bullied by this man. So me and Nick, we just stood up and go out. That's it. And we went out of the office for the day.
Well, Nalcor stripped SNC-Lavalin of its leadership role on the project in 2012, citing SNC's poor performance. But Béchard contends the company did good work and blamed Nalcor for many of the problems. His testimony continues tomorrow.
Well, it's not exactly northern Scotland, but Happy Valley Goose Bay is now home to some Highland cows.
That's right. A local man brought the animals to central Labrador with the hopes of eventually selling locally sourced beef. Our Jacob Barker swung by the Aldercroft farm to meet the cows.
I do have a background in farming, more so cows and things like that. And so it seemed more of a natural fit for me as opposed to growing like turnips and potatoes, because I'm just not a vegetable farmer.
You got some cattle here.
That's right, yeah. We got some cows, the first Highland cows in Labrador, I believe.
They don't seem to mind it.
They love it. I mean, they're certainly not cold, because they've got a giant, furry coat on them. Come on. Highland cows are sort of like a heritage breed. They're pretty common amongst people that are looking for a more natural type of beef as opposed to like a commercially raised style of beef. You can't buy beef that's local here because no one's growing it. It's just not happening yet until now. We want to sell beef locally and possibly even up the coast of Labrador. We're starting off with the few cows we have, and we're hoping to grow that to maybe double or triple the size, and then we'll be able to go ahead and start processing the meat here. That's something else that's on our wish list, is an abattoir here in Labrador so that we can process our own meat. But I believe that will come in time. Until then, we'll process our meat outside of Labrador and have it brought in. But this herd here, they'll be here with us for the next 2 or 3 years, just building the herd and growing a healthy stock in Labrador. We're hoping to have it open to the public so that in the next couple months we'll be able to offer natural beef to the public here in Labrador. And like I said, these cows won't be it, but we have basically the other half of the herd will be processed. The older cows that are ready for that stage in their life. Growing our food locally, I think, is just very important for food security here. It being greener and us being able to produce things here has a greater impact on the environment and just good stewardship in general.
They look like happy cows.
Yeah, they do. I hope they're as tasty as they are cute. Did you notice the donkey with the serious identity problem in there?
Fit right in, though.
Anyway, locally sourced food. Good to see.
Yeah.
I think this family is asking for support from their multi-levels of approach that are being done, and I think that is what is needed. It's very daunting.
For new immigrants, the Canadian healthcare system can be a puzzle.
We'll hear from the Association for New Canadians about how they help people figure out a health crisis.
Update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Bonus deadline is midnight, Friday, April 5th. Order now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Well, spring is here.
Right, time to catch a wave, perhaps?
Yeah, check out these surfers in Mobile on the southern shore, and thanks to Gail Davis for sending this in. Still a little chilly to surf, I would think.
It's doing good, though.
Yes.
I mean, still standing upright, kind of showing off.
Yeah, it's hard to say from this angle whether the surfers have their long johns on, though.
Yeah, I think it's blunks.
Wow.
It's pretty impressive.
It really is.
And they're tough.
Decent wave. And
Yeah, those are pretty good.
I guess the wetsuit would keep you
Dry.
fairly
Or
warm.
Somewhat warm.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with the actual ability to stay on the wave.
Yeah.
This person knows what they're doing.
When you love surfing,
No
you
kidding.
surf no matter what.
Yeah.
You gotta. Blunks.
That's
Just like the
awesome.
opening scene to Hawaii Five-0, you know, that
Point Break.
beautiful, that's right.
It's
Yeah.
about 20 degrees warmer.
that's right.
No big deal.
All right, so what was it today? It felt kind of cold.
It
this
was, and it was a
morning, yeah.
cold start to the
Yeah.
day today, especially up through parts of Labrador. Take a look at these temperatures. Minus 28 in Happy Valley Goose Bay is what you woke up to, and then temperatures in the northern peninsula, minus 19 for St. Anthony. And then temperatures a little cool through Badger as well, minus 13. And then the afternoon highs warmed up quite nicely, especially through parts of central. Minus 3 was your afternoon high for Deer Lake, minus 10 in St. Anthony, and then Happy Valley Goose Bay reached a high near minus 15. Now taking a look at the satellite and radar, we saw some cloud cover move in. It's peaks of sun as well for parts of the Avalon, but otherwise we're seeing that potential for flurries right through the island as we head through the night tonight. If you take a look at that future tracker, you can see that, but we're generally going to see partly cloudy skies and then clearing up through Labrador by the time the evening rolls around tonight. And then once tomorrow morning rolls around, we should see clearing for most of the island as well. And that's because a ridge of high pressure moves in. But with that, it means we're looking at another chilly night again tonight. So minus teens across most of the island, minus 14 in Corner Brook, minus 11 should be your overnight low in Port aux Basques. And then St. Anthony, minus 18, minus 19 again tonight. Again, looking at that potential for flurries through the night and then eventually clearing by morning. But those winds will be light on the west coast. Towards the northeast coast, we're looking at southwesterlies gusting upwards of about 40 kilometers per hour tonight. Minus 7 is the overnight low in St. John's. And then up through Labrador, another cold night again. So Lab City going down to potentially minus 29 tonight, and that's because those winds are going to ease. But we are still looking at that potential for some flurries. Happy Valley Goose Bay minus 25, minus 26 tonight. And then along the coast, some westerly winds somewhere between 20 and 40 kilometers per hour. So your temperature sitting in the minus 20s through the night tonight. Now looking ahead to tomorrow, as I mentioned, that high pressure is dominating, so winds should be generally light for the most part. Might see a few gusts upwards of about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, but overall we are looking at some increasing cloud towards the morning hours for Lab City, and then we'll see snow move in, and that's going to spread across the Big Land as we head into the evening hours, certainly into the overnight for Happy Valley Goose Bay and towards the coast as far as that snow goes. And we're looking at about maybe 2+ centimeters, so not too much in the way of accumulation, but generally looking at a lovely day with a mix of sun and cloud for most of the Avalon. Those temperatures a little bit cooler than today, so hovering around minus 4. We will see a warm up though as we head towards the end of the work week, so that's certainly good news there. Winds are going to shift to more northwesterlies. That's why we're seeing those cooler temperatures. And then again, between 40 to 50 kilometer per hour wind gusts. Otherwise, through Grand Falls, Windsor, towards Terra Nova, we're looking at temperatures around minus 3. Harbor Breton a little warmer at minus 1. And then down along the coast as well, minus 3 for Port aux Basques. Along the west coast, lingering flurries in the morning and then eventually clearing out. Minus 5 is your afternoon high for Corner Brook. And then we're looking at minus 9 again for St. Anthony. Some southwesterlies upwards of about 20 kilometers per hour. And here's a look at that temperature for Lab City. So much warmer, minus 6 tomorrow. Some southwest winds near 40 kilometers per hour again with that potential for some flurries and light snow moving in about 2+ centimeters tomorrow. And then we'll start to see that cloud cover later on in the day as we head towards the coast. Your high near minus 10 for Nain. So that's a look at your forecast. We'll look ahead towards the weekend when I come back. Carolyn?
Thanks, Ashley. We now go back to the story of a mother's struggle to be by her baby's side as he receives treatment for brain cancer in Boston. Sagia Yakubi and her family are from Afghanistan but have lived in St. John's since 2015. She's a permanent resident but not a Canadian citizen, primarily because she's not learned to speak English or French. And for that reason, she can't get a Canadian passport and her Afghan passport is expired. That means she can't travel to Boston to be with her 15-month-old child as he receives cancer treatment. The Association for New Canadians has not been involved in this case, but often helps newcomers navigate through difficult situations like this one. This afternoon, we spoke with Susie Hagigi, who is a social work coordinator at the ANC.
I do think it's heartbreaking. Many newcomer families arrive at the ANC. We work with all types of newcomers, primarily government-assisted refugees and privately sponsored refugees. I can tell you that newcomers, they do bring often language barriers, cultural barriers. They are learning to navigate systems. Everything is very new for them. And then when you have a crisis in health, especially with a child, it can be heartbreaking. But to add on top of it, not understanding what kind of supports are out there or how to navigate these systems, that just adds other layers of pressure to our families. One of the things that we do here at the Association for New Canadians is that we do have some close partnerships with Eastern Health, with provincial services, federal services as well, that we work collaboratively to support newcomers. I have not myself dealt with someone going to the States, but that extra layer of barriers would be there. Again, many of our families, particularly refugees, arrive with the clothes on their back. They don't have supporting documentation. If a refugee needed that assistance, we would be able to provide them, for example, to help them to fill out travel documents with the Immigration Canada to help them with that. But for a family who has a passport who's expired, that is extra daunting and very difficult. I do think that families who are in unique situations, that sometimes the communities need to get together to support these families. At the emotional level, to just support them through what they're going through, but also to help to navigate systems and to use all resources and supports that are out there to work together to find a creative solution that will be in everyone's best interests. And family reunification and the health of our families is so important to all of us.
So obviously it's a very strong story.
Yeah.
We brought it to you last night. Politicians working behind the scenes.
Yeah, apparently MP Nick Whalen, who's their MP, was visiting them in hospital. And,
right, and he met with the family today as well, and they're trying to get higher level politicians both in Ottawa and the United States involved. So we'll keep our eyes on this story.
The main thing about him was like he had lots of friends. Everyone loved him, and he was so outgoing and just like he was like a people person.
Still to come, we'll go to Nain to hear the story of 14-year-old Gussie Bennett and how the community reacted when he died from tuberculosis last year. Welcome back to Here Now. His name was Gussie Bennett. He was a goalie, and you would always find this young man at a rink in Nain. In 2017, Gussie got sick, and by March of 2018, he was dead from tuberculosis, just 14.
Tonight, a documentary from CBC Indigenous takes us to Nain and into the lives of Gussie's family and into a community's efforts to fight TB.
I was around 6 or 7 months pregnant with my son Willie Boy and my kids last year. Because they would always play with their uncle, my brother Gussie. I suppose they caught it from him. He was the youngest one out of all of us. My mom had 5 kids. I guess the main thing about him was like he had lots of friends. Everyone loved him, and he was so outgoing and just like he was like a people person. His body started getting weak, and it was mostly his feet. His feet were sore, his legs were sore, like the rest of his body was sore, and so when he was brought to the clinic, that's when they noticed that he was really sick.
It was so unexpected that the doctor in Goose Bay told me he's not feeling well. I have to put him to sleep and make him sedated, and I told Gussie that. And Gussie said, no, I don't. I don't want to put to sleep.
And then it turned into a heart attack, and they revived him, and then a few hours later he died after that. Rest in peace.
I was so lost. My mind was lost. I was only crying all by myself. So devastating. It's so hard. What I went through with Gussie was so hard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still traumatized yet. He was my boy, my hockey boy, my favorite boy. And he was loved by everybody, everybody in town, and happy kid.
I picture him in the lobby right outside the canteen there, and he's waiting. Ed, you need a goalie? Yeah, get dressed. That's what I remember him. He's always waiting out there to be a goalie. That's what I remember him, and that's what I miss about him the most. He'd run up after school, run right to the rink, and he'd wait for me to ask him to be in it. That's what I will always remember him, you know. It happened so fast, nobody knew. Like, everyone knew he was sick, but nobody knew what was wrong with him. But like, it affected a lot of kids, and I wanted to have a tournament just to honor his memory. Like, all the kids couldn't wait to play. Like, they were so excited. The whole town was excited. Like, it was an emotional tournament, but it was closure for all of us, you know, that never had a chance to say goodbye to Gussie. Well, we miss him dearly, but we honor his memory with his tournament, and he'll always live on in the Nain minor hockey, and he will never be forgotten. Yeah.
You want to come in, see what it... Yeah. I think I was around that age, 10 or 11, when I went to St. Anthony, when I had TB the second time. I guess if you've had TB, it's always in the back of your mind. For me, it is, having been hospitalized twice. This time I was sent to St. Anthony. They had a hospital there, and there was a sanatorium in the back. But there were about 10 of us, female. Because I was there for 2 years, I became very attached to some of the patients that were in the ward with me. Good girl. Good girl. I don't know if it'll ever be eliminated.
And back now to Nain, where the community is fighting to take control of the highest rate of tuberculosis in Canada.
But fighting TB also means fighting for better living conditions. Here's part 2.
Evukar mga inusit sagitutit sigasoonimut pivalleaqulluit ilaqalluti ilinniavit soami iani aqisiu iami ilinniaqasoayuit pitsutigillugu.
Due to the TB outbreak in 2018, they are focusing on residents of Nain and Hopdale. The TB sharing circle is scheduled for tonight here in Nain at the DHSD building.
When we had the first announcement that there was an outbreak in Nain, people more or less panicked, you know, saying, what am I going to do? How can I get tested? Who has it? How do I not get it? I was one of the people that tested positive, and I had to go to Goose Bay. I went on the plane, what they called it, labeled as a TB plane now. At the time, you used to have to wear a mask. You'd be unloaded in Goose Bay, wearing your mask, people watching you in the airport and wondering what the heck was wrong with us, you know, like it's once it's on you, it's hard to get rid of, you know, that labeling. Families are living together with their own families, sometimes up to 20 or more in one household. And when you get together like that, in one household and somebody has TB, they don't know it, that TB disease passed by is airborne, you know. After a while, you know, it's going to affect the other people in the community, in your family.
So oftentimes if someone is healthy, you know, they have a good immune system, they have a healthy diet, they're living in, you know, good housing conditions with good ventilation. Oftentimes people can live their entire lifetime and the disease never activates. It just lives dormant in our lungs, and you know, people live with their lifetime and may not even know they even have the germ in their body. But for those who may you know, not have access to nutritious food, nutritious diet, are living in poor, overcrowded housing, poor ventilation, sometimes you know, living with addictions issues, alcohol use and abuse, tobacco smoking, for example, all those things can contribute to reducing our immune system, and then those bugs wake up in our lungs, and that's what causes active disease. The classic symptoms of TB is a cough. So usually, but it's a chronic cough, so at least 3 weeks or longer. And sometimes patients will experience, you know, they're coughing up a lot of sputum. Sometimes people may have blood in their sputum. And oftentimes they will experience night sweats. So by night sweats, I mean not just waking up because you're warm. It's like you're actually wet and sweat. There's often times people will experience like their appetite is not well. They'll notice a big change in appetite. With that, of course, will come weight loss. We always tell people if you're ill and you're not feeling well and you have these symptoms, to you know, make an appointment with your healthcare provider.
Mamak tutik. Oh, my back. Sleepy. My baba sleepy. Yeah. He's too tired. Personally, for my kids, I didn't expect them to have TB, but just knowing that they did have TB and there was medication provided and they helped my kids to follow through with the medication, and having those services there, like my kids getting the x-rays and having the sputum tests and all that. I just feel lucky that we're in a time now we do have these services and my kids are still here. Even though we lost my brother, their uncle, we are still here, so we do have these services, and I'm just glad for it. It's heartwarming, actually, just feeling like in some way some of Gus's personalities is growing on Daniel. So they were two very different people, but I think when Daniel was growing up, he was humorous too, but ever since Gussie passed away, Daniel's humor just lifted so much, so Daniel is always joking around now, because I think he knew that Gussie joked around a lot, so Daniel jokes around a lot more now. The day Gussie passed away is the day before Juliana's birthday, so I think that affects her in that way. Her birthday is coming up, and his 1-year anniversary is coming up, so I'm nervous for it to come, but it needs to come. Just losing my brother and at the same time having my baby, it's something bad but something good out of it. So even though like there's moments come like you got no choice but to grieve and you got no choice to carry on, it really is scary, and like one of your family members could just die, and with us it was my brother who just passed away from TB, and it's heartbreaking, but at the same time afterwards it's like heartwarming because it just brings us all together, and all the love that you got for your family, it just makes it stronger.
Whew. So many elements to Gussie's story, and also shocking to think that in the population is at 50 times the cases of TB compared to the general population.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and thanks to producer Nick Maloney and reporter Ozzie Michelin for bringing us that powerful documentary.
For me personally, if you weren't a little bit nervous, there'd be something wrong.
A mountain climber from St. John's has been training for months and is just days away from heading to Nepal to try and make it to the top of Mount Everest.
Wow, we'll hear Mark Ballard's story tomorrow night on Here and Now.
This weather update is brought to you by 811 Healthline. Medical advice, health information, mental health, and healthy eating. Dial 811. It's free and confidential.
Well, it's Tuesday, and
yeah,
that means
it's been a while too.
It has since I was gone. But it's
Weather Whiz Kid Day.
Weather Whiz Kid Day. So we have a new entry. Eva St. Croix is our new Weather Whiz Kid of the day. She's from Mount Pearl, 9 years old, and this is her photo or her drawing.
Spectacular, nice blue sky.
Yeah.
Igloo there.
An igloo and skating.
And somebody really working hard to make a snowman.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Excellent.
What a great drawing there.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and there she is there. So
Nice.
thank you
Eva.
so much for sending in your drawing. And if you want to be one of our Weather Whiz Kids, send your drawing, your photo, your address, and how old you are to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Yeah,
We'll get
become
you
a
on.
whiz kid.
Yeah, and I'll send you a postcard in the mail.
Cool.
Perfect. Talking about some ice.
Yeah, some amazing images from the Strait of Belle Isle today from Meg Roberts. Just have a look at all of this ice. Yeah, Meg Roberts joined the Coast Guard on a helicopter bound for the icebreaker Henry Larson in the Strait.
She says the ship's captain told her the conditions are the worst that he's seen in years. As you can see there, look at all that ice.
My goodness.
Loads of it.
It's
And
incredible.
More than one seal, I'll bet you.
More than likely, yes.
Yeah.
So you said earlier that we would have a little look-see ahead to the weekend.
We are. We're going to look at Thursday's forecast first. The good news is we're going to start to see these temperatures heading back towards seasonal. So if you take a look at the future tracker on heading into Thursday, you can see mainly looking at the potential for some flurries up through Labrador, and it does look like it will be a gray couple of days. once we get towards the weekend. For Labrador, otherwise, most of the island is actually looking at a fairly nice day. And then those warmer temperatures, as I mentioned, we will start to see that cloud cover push in, though, towards the early morning hours on Friday. But taking a look at those temperatures sitting above zero, which is certainly good news, with plenty of sunshine. So these temperatures could bump up a degree or two from what we're seeing here. 2 degrees should be your afternoon high in Corner Brook, 2 for St. Anthony as well. Parts of Central will be a little bit warmer. Grand Falls winds are looking at 4 degrees. And up through Labrador, we're going to see those warmer temperatures as well. Happy Valley Goose Bay should reach a high near 4 degrees, and then for Lab City +1. But we are looking at that potential for flurries, as I mentioned, into the afternoon. Now, looking ahead through the evening hours on Thursday towards Saturday morning, or rather Friday into Saturday morning, is when we're looking at that next push of warm air moving in. And with that, areas along the coast could see things and will likely see things start as snow and then change over to rain into Saturday morning as we see that bigger push of warm air. A little bit of clearing in behind that on Saturday afternoon. And then eventually another system will move in. Again, this one looks a little bit messy along the coast, with that potential changing over to some showers into the afternoon, into Saturday or Sunday afternoon rather, and then snow up through Labrador right through the day on Sunday. And then we're going to stay warm, it looks, right into Monday for most of Newfoundland. So here's a look at the 5-day forecast. Sunshine right through Thursday, it looks like. There's your temperature climbing to about 2 degrees. Friday, those winds will pick up, and that's when we're looking at that potential for showers to move in. 8 degrees on Saturday and Sunday, should reach a high near 10 degrees with sunshine and clearing skies through the day. Now, for parts of Central, we're looking at -3 tomorrow with plenty of sunshine right through Thursday, warming up nicely to 4 degrees. 6 by Friday. Again, those winds will pick up, breezy winds likely gusting upwards of about 50, maybe 60 kilometers per hour. And then rain through the day on Saturday and then continuing on to Sunday. Look, 11 degrees looks like it should be the afternoon high. So certainly welcome temperatures. Western Newfoundland, much of the same with sunshine through Thursday. Friday, as I mentioned, along the coast, we could start as snow and change over to rain. And then between 7 and 10 degrees, it looks like your weekend with some peaks of sun, but again, that potential for some flurries. Eastern Labrador looking at -8 tomorrow with plenty of sunshine, then warming up to 4 degrees on Thursday. Friday 0, and then hovering around that as we head towards the weekend. And then same for Western Labrador. Flurries could pick up about 2 centimeters tomorrow. Flurries right through Friday, and then peaks of sun on Saturday. So let's look at your forecast. I'll have your weather photo when I come back. Carolyn?
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the Supreme Court of Newfoundland and Labrador has 2 new judges. Michelle Cody was most recently counsel at the Legal Aid Commission in St. John's, and Kate O'Brien, whose name you might recognize. She's co-counsel at the Muskrat Falls inquiry, so you've seen her on the news a lot these last few months. No word from O'Brien or the commission on how her new role will affect the Muskrat Falls inquiry. The new appointments bring the number of Supreme Court judges that are women to 11, outnumbering the men who fill 10 of the seats.
Well, foreign doctors moving to Nova Scotia are going to find the transition a little easier thanks to some colleagues who already made the move there. A group of doctors from overseas has set up a Facebook page to mentor those newcomers, and it's helping to fill some of the gaps that made the transition very difficult for some recently arrived doctors. The CBC's Carolyn Ray has that story.
6 months into his new job, Dr. Adi Akindelli is loving his new life as a family doctor in Bedford.
It's unbelievable how balanced I feel my life is at the moment.
Dr. Akindelli is one of a growing number of physicians who are fed up with the working conditions back home, and Nova Scotia is banking heavily on poaching those like him who are looking for change. The last few years, the province has set up a booth at a physician career fair in London, advertising a fast-track immigration program and a new home just across the ocean. This is where Dr. Akindelli discovered Nova Scotia.
I think you can make a difference here. I think if you come with your ethics and your passion from the UK, you will settle very well. This is going to go
Dr. Akindelli is one of 5 physicians from the UK to use the fast-track immigration stream for doctors so far, but that fast track took him over many hurdles. He couldn't work at all during his first month here. He was stalled waiting for his license, trying to set up a record system, even opening a bank account. All things that could have been taken care of before he landed if someone would have warned him.
It was a frustrating month being away from my family in a new country and not being able to do anything.
Dr. Akindelli and a dozen other doctors who are new to the province have started up a private Facebook group offering step-by-step advice to new recruits. He says they're doing it because they're happy here, but they'd like to see the health authority formally take this on.
So what we're doing is off our own backs, which is good because we understand what happens when you come in. But I'd like to see more partnership with the health authorities so that, it's a more pleasant transition.
The health authority says it's listening and it's working on a document based on the feedback from the doctors. It's something that could come in handy soon, as the province met with 36 possible recruits in the United Kingdom just last week. Carolyn Ray, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, the current gloom over Canada's economy does have one bright spot. Mortgage rates are dropping. Fixed-rate mortgages have tumbled in recent weeks, and they're tied to declining yields on 5-year government bonds, which banks and other lenders depend on. So on the one hand, it may be positive for anybody who's shopping around for a mortgage, but it's not great for the economy. In the long term, changes in the bond market, both here and in the United States, could signal a coming recession.
Canada's rocky relationship with China hit another bump today. Beijing has now blocked canola imports from a second Canadian producer, Viterra, over alleged contamination by pests. The Prime Minister says he's taking the issue very seriously. He's considering sending a high-level delegation to China to try to resolve the situation.
Know that the canola produced here in Canada is top quality, and the oversight, inspection, and science that surrounds what we do here is top-notch and world-class.
Justin Trudeau acknowledged diplomatic issues between the two countries, but did not directly connect them to what is widely suspected Chinese retaliation for Canada's arrest of Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou on behalf of the U.S. Richardson was the first canola company to be blocked. That was earlier this month. Canadian farmers sell about 40% of their canola oil and seeds to China, worth more than $2 billion.
Here's a heavenly looking weather photo of the day today. Beautiful sunset taken along the northeast coast.
Well, that helps.
I know. There's really no way you can see where this is. We actually get quite a few photos from here, and this place looks stunning. So I'll tell you where this photo was taken and who took it when we
see
come
a
back.
roof over there, right?
There's a few.
Well, it was called a giant leap for mankind when Neil Armstrong stepped onto the moon 50 years ago, and it turns out the declaration remains true.
Yeah, even in 2019, NASA seems to be struggling to get women into space. The space agency has canceled its first ever all-female spacewalk.
Yes, astronauts Christina Cook and Anne McLean were supposed to walk out of the International Space Station on Friday, making history as the first female pair to do it.
But today, the agency discovered that it only has one spacesuit that fits the women, so now a male astronaut, has to go along instead.
Wow. I find that amazing.
So I guess they didn't have the right sizes.
Like
There's no.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
Anyways.
Yeah, anyway, we'll take a look at the weather photo.
Yeah.
Yes.
There it is there, and it was taken in Trinity.
Beautiful Trinity.
Yes, beautiful
Nice
spot.
spot.
There. Yeah, gorgeous photo there. Thank you so much to Georgina Penny for sending that photo in over English Harbor.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Still trying to think of the spacesuit, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
You know, you always have to have a second one, right?
You think that they would all have their own personal suits.
Right.
But I don't know.
See you tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.